Alrighty, so you know how last night when I talk about how home team has been 6-6, and so far we haven't seen a road team able to win game one in the first round of the playoffs. Well, it feels like the script writer probably heard me say that because they completely flipped the script today. Today, not only we saw the first road team able to win in game one of the playoffs, but we also saw a second team able to do that following that. I mean, I feel like the MLS script writer realizing that, yeah, we can't simply just have all the home team going to be facing elimination heading into game two, and potentially we could have a situation where we might not even get a game number three in the first round of the playoffs. We gotta have at least have some drama that's going to be happen in game number two, and yeah, again, there was definitely some drama in this. Though I will say this game was a big shocker. I mean, honestly, I don't think anyone saw this coming. Not even Red Bulls fan, I think, saw this one coming with the way that they were able to go to Columbus, go to Lower.com Field, which has been one of the toughest, if not the toughest place to win a game, and yet they pulled off a 1-0 win. And what's even crazier about this is that the Red Bulls, they did their typical Red Bull thing. They did a game where they had moments where they could have easily put this game away, could have made it 2-0 or even 3-0 in this game to put away Columbus. But they just said, you know what, we're just gonna do like what we always do, which is just making it hard on ourselves and give the crew every opportunity to try to get the equalizer. But unfortunately for the crew, I mean, it just feels like something was off in this game, and you could argue this might be the worst game that they have looked so far this season at home, especially when it comes to their attack in this game. Now, keep in mind there was no Diego Rossi in this match for the crew, which I think that's a bit of a hit because he is a pretty big impact player for this crew side. But I didn't think one impact player in Ross C, and especially when we always weigh about how deep this crew team is, and especially on the attack, and not to mention you also have the MVP candidate Cucho Hernandez in this team. You would not expect that this team would put up a zero on the scoreline after the end of this game. Now, in the first half, 5 minutes into this game, the first shot did see Cucho hits one right to Cornell. Unsurprisingly, Columbus had most of the possession. The Red Bulls were looking to try to hit all the transition. The shots were only 2-1 for Columbus early in this one. Cucho would then miss wide from long range in the 18th minute. I thought the Red Bulls had done a really good job with the press, and that was, so that is kind of a thing that I heard throughout the broadcast, that they said that was kind of almost a gamble for the Red Bulls to try to do that. I actually think that was the right strategy, and in many ways, I don't think that was a gamble. You know that with the way that Columbus, they're a team that likes to play out of the back, and we have seen before that this defense have make those bad giveaways before. This is also kind of something that I'm kind of surprised not many more teams try to do against the crew, because if you put pressure on them, there could be times where they are vulnerable, and especially when you're facing against a New York Red Bull side that loves to press, and that's kind of in their DNA in general in terms of that energy drink soccer. It was not a big surprise that they really done well with the press, was really putting the crew under pressure all this time. So that being said, in the 28th minute, we did see the opening goal of the game. It didn't come from a press. It actually came from a set piece, as Cabarro would score from Nealis to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. And yeah, that was not great set piece defending from the crew. Set piece defending at time has been a problem for this Columbus team, and this was kind of in full force where they just didn't clear their lines in turn. So this ball in the box there, and there is Cabarro in the right place, right time to head this one in. And just like that, the shock was on. The Red Bulls were leading 1-0. And this also is the first time that we have seen a road team have a lead in the first round. It's hard to believe that that is kind of the statement. But yeah, throughout this playoffs, not only the fact that the home team has won every single game so far in the playoffs, but the home team have actually not trailed at all so far in this playoffs. Shaberko then looked to respond, but he puts it wide before Morgan was in on goal here in the 36th minute, but he puts this one wide off of a lightning counterattack. And while Lewis Morgan was definitely very active when it comes to attack in this game, he was kind of doing a very classic Red Bull fan, almost like he's trying to be Elias Manuel in this game. And I'm sorry, Elias Manuel, I have to bring him up in this, but you know how he's been missing so many big chances, and here it feels like he took the Elias Manuel role, trying to create some big chances, get into right spot, but somehow in some way forgot how to finish. And I even wrote, that should have been 2-0 in favor of the Red Bulls, and could that chance come back to haunt them, and could that chance be regret if the Red Bulls does lose this game, because up to this point, you would think one is not clearly not enough against this Columbus team, especially with the way that they pretty much have been scoring almost every single game that they play this season at home. But we do go to halftime with the Red Bulls leading 1-0 in the second half. Ramirez would heads it right to Cornell as Columbus continue to have most of the possession, but really they're starting to force to create chances from hopeful crosses, and that was another thing that the Red Bulls did really good in this game. Besides the fact that they were doing good in terms of the pressing department, they were very stellar on the defensive part, and that is something we have not seen the Red Bulls done lately. At times, I mentioned that this Red Bulls team, their defense has been kind of all over the place at time, but they really defended well. They were really kind of forcing the crew to the outside and just kind of hope that the crew can hit those hopeful crosses and goes in. Though that being said, we have seen before where the crew has been able to hit those hopeful crosses or those low during cross to the dangerous area, and there's Cucho or any one of these attacker that will bury into the back of net. That's how dynamic this crew team is. Cucho then puts it high on the free kick as Columbus continue to push for the equalizer. Schulte then denied Morgan from close before Russell Rowe hits it right to Cornell. Van Zier then pretty much puts this one to Cleveland from long range. Yeah, that shot kind of summarized Dante Van Zier's season and really his time with the New York Red Bulls. There was a huge shot for a penalty for Columbus that was not given, and that definitely did not make the home fans happy. In fact, the home fans responded by telling the ref that he really sucked in an explicit way, and I'm not gonna say what that explicit way is because yeah, you probably know what it is. And by the way, it was actually a handball that they were called. I think that was the right call. It looked like it bounced off a defender knee and hits his hand. I mean that would have been very harsh to be given a handball. But Harper then puts it wide from close in the 66th minute. It just feels like the next goal is up for grabs. So who can potentially score it? Well, Lewis Morgan had a chance to do so in the 68th minute. In fact, he went 1v1 with the goalkeeper. I mean, he was just clean for on goal. 9 out of 10 times that's in the back of net. But remember, this is the New York Red Bulls, and you know that this season, if your name is not Emil Frostberg, you're not going to bury the chances. And really, if this was Lewis Morgan when he was still in form in May, he would have absolutely buried this one. But for whatever reason, he decided to kind of rounds the keeper, which that's not a bad thing to do. But you got to make sure when you round the keeper, you take a good touch. He did not. He took that touch away from him, so he lost his angle as a result. And by the time he tried to cut that back in, it was just a one hopper right to Schulte. And I thought that was a play that might come back to haunt not only the Red Bulls in a big way, but you just kind of had a feeling that that is a classic, that's so Metro kind of moment from the New York Red Bulls, and you kind of had a sense that yeah, that moment is going to cost them dearly. They have to make it 2-0 up to this point. There is no way in the world they can keep this at 1-0 and think that they could walk away with all 3 points. Though in the 69th minute, Cornell did deny Jackson in the front post. I gotta say, Carlos Cornell, as much as he has been shaky at times this season, this was probably the best performance he had put throughout this season. And really, as the time winds down, the group continued to bring on the attacking sub because Wilfred Nancy he was doing everything that he could to try to get this attack firing. Again, this attack really just feel like they are off, and this is kind of the thing we talked about before in MLS, where even the best team in the league will have these kind of games where the attack is just not there. We've seen it before, even with Inter Miami as well. I mean, I can definitely say that considering that I was there in person against Charlotte, where I thought that was kind of a performance where Inter Miami was very off when it comes to the attack, and it feels like Columbus was having the same issue here, and that they're fortunate the fact that this is still only game one, but at the same time, it's kind of unfortunate that it's coming at a time when it is the beginning of the playoffs. Cornell then oh actually I already said that. But in the 85th minute, Cornell would deny Jones from close range, and then Russell Rowe would heads one right to Cornell. The crew were throwing the kitchen sink. You just had a sense that the Red Bulls were hanging on for dear life to trying to get this 1-0 win. And in the end, they do. They get the 1-0 win. Probably the biggest surprise so far in the playoffs, or maybe one of the biggest surprise we have seen in recent year. Again, no one saw this coming. No, everybody thought that this was going to be an easy win for the Columbus Crew to move on into the next round, potentially facing against Cincinnati in the Hell is Real Derby. But the Red Bulls have definitely said not so fast when it comes to this game. They get the 1-0 win and also the 1-0 advantage heading into game 2 of this best of 3 series. Shots in this one, 16 shots for the 11 that the Red Bulls had, 3 shots on goal for the 8 that Columbus had, 3 shots off target for both of these teams, 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 73% possession compared to the 27% possession the Red Bulls had. I mean, the possession is not a big surprise. You know Columbus is going to dominate the possession, and the Red Bulls has always been one of the team that they don't care about possession. Energy drink soccer does not really care about possession. It's all about how you press and win the ball high up the pitch and go direct on the attacks. But yeah, like I said, this definitely throw in a bit of an interesting situation heading into game number 2. Now, ultimately, I do still believe Columbus should be able to win this best of 3 series. And this is not nothing to knock on the New York Red Bulls. I think the Red Bulls play very well and have really make this more interesting. But again, this it just feels like this is one of those rare off night for Columbus, and again, they're very lucky the fact that it's a best of 3 series. Imagine if this was a single elimination. This would have been probably the biggest shock that we've seen in this playoffs, and maybe in recent year if Columbus actually get knocked out in the first round. Consider this team is supposed to be considered to be once again an MLS Cup contender after winning it last year, but again, should make things very interesting heading into game number 2, and that for once the not so metro moment for the Red Bulls have not happened yet in the playoffs. Doesn't mean that it cannot not happen in game number 2 as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure Red Bulls fans are thinking this is too good to be true. Something has to be off heading into game number 2, but we shall see. I mean, they get the home field advantage throughout the season. They've been pretty good at home. Just don't look at the last game when they play against Columbus, how they blow it that one leg. But yeah, this really is a big shocker, and it just kind of shows you in the playoffs that anything is possible in the playoffs. Like there's a reason why everybody said doesn't matter if you where you finish near the bottom in terms of the playoff seeding. In any given in playoffs in MLS, things can definitely turn, and there could be some surprises. And as I said, we saw our first surprise in this game between Columbus and the New York Red Bulls. Now, what is not surprising is this game between RSL versus Minnesota. And I think maybe the only surprising thing coming out of this game is that it actually got entertaining in the second half. I mean, after what I saw in the first half, I was thinking, oh boy, looks like I'm going to be ready to watch a repeat of what we saw back in October 2nd, where this was going to be an absolute slugfest. It's going to be just a game that if you're a neutral, I really send my condolences in terms of watching this game, because again, it was kind of unwatchable of how bad both of these teams were on the attacking end. But then in the second half, it feels like something switched. It feels like both of these head coach must have gave the attacking team a bit of earful. And then the second half happened, and it turns out to be an entertaining game to a point where really the only reason why this ended 0-0 was that it was a real goalkeeping duel between Zach McMath and Dane Sinclair in this game. Now, early on, I just want to say there was a lot of empty seats inside the riot, and I get it. Yes, it is. It is pretty cold. Cold. They mentioned that it was like in the 40s, and I also thought that was kind of a late arrival crowd, because at least from what I heard from RSL when I was looking at the Reddit stream on the on MLS Reddit page, that RSL fans said they're always a team that at times the ride can be filled up relatively late, and it definitely did fill up as the game goes along. But yeah, that's not really a good look to see a lot of empty seats to begin. And it also kind of just shows that again these midweek matches in the playoffs is just a bad idea. The attendance, we know midweek games is hard to draw, and even in the playoffs, you would think that it would be a better draw, but again, midweek games are always tough, and not to mention in terms of games that is like 39 degrees or 40 degrees as the weather was shown, and it's a 7 p.m. kickoff, which is a little bit. I mean, it's not too early, but definitely a little bit earlier than the usual kickoff time for Real Salt Lake game. Yeah, it's not surprising there was a late arrival crowd, and the traffic to get to Salt Lake City from Sandy is probably not going to be good whatsoever. But not much really happened, at least early in this game. And again, it kind of didn't help the fact that Chicho Arango was down for 5 minutes. He actually will be okay for the rest of the game, which I don't think that's a big surprise. Again, Chicho Arango, it seems like he's been spending more time lately in terms of complaining and also flopping at times than actually putting some effort in front of goal. And it's kind of sad to see because this guy was so electric in the beginning of the season. I don't know what happened to him during that 4 game suspension that he was serving, but he just looked like nothing like the same guy. It just feels like a guy that just has that negative kind of body language in him, which again, even if you're an RSL fan, I don't think RSL fans are very happy with his negative and it body language that he's shown in his work ethics that he's been shown ever since coming back from that 4 game suspension. But in the 13th minute, Dane Sinclair would deny Luna after a bad turnover for the Loons. Bad turnover and also lapse of concentration on the defensive end would be a fee for the Loons in this game. And again, if it wasn't for Dane Sinclair saving them a couple of times, they probably would have lost this game, Minnesota, because of those lapse of concentration. Rosales then had Minnesota first shot, but he hits it right to McMath. And early on, this looked like a very similar kind of battle that we saw on October 2nd. A very tight game, not much chances has been created by either team. It also doesn't help the fact that it feels like, I can understand why maybe Eric Ramsey decided to go with a more defensive approach. He doesn't want to open things up, especially being the road team and maybe hitting on the counter. But it's kind of hard to do that if you are just kind of getting pinned deep at most of the time. And Minnesota is one of the team that I will also say that they do have times struggle against teams that likes to press. RSO is definitely one of those teams that likes to press, and I thought at times they were very nervy when it comes to dealing with those press coming playing out of the back, and that's kind of one of the reasons why some of those turnover happened for this Minnesota team early on. Though that being said, the shots were only 2-1 for Minnesota 30 minutes in, and yeah, that sounds about right because it's been a bit of a yawn fest. In fact, the whole first half we finished with just 4 shots, and this is when I thought, oh boy, this is gonna be like what we saw on October 2nd. Isn't it? I mean, let's just at this point just skip to PKs and let's decide who, of course, will be getting the advantage heading into game number two. The good news is things did eventually change in the second half, and I would also say that this kind of feel like maybe your typical playoff match where maybe things can be a little bit tense in the beginning, but it did open up as the game goes along, and really as we head in the second half, that's kind of what we saw where it really started to open up. McMath would then deny Yoboa after RSL themselves caught the ball up in a bad spot. RV then drags this one wide from close range. I thought Minnesota started the second half the better team. They were looking to try to get the opening goal, though in the 51st minute, Dane Sinclair absolutely robbed Diego Luna here. And again, I talk about Minnesota committing these kind of moments where it's just a lapse of concentration. Here, I mean, they just stopped playing after the free kick was given. I mean, they were still complaining about the free kick that gone against them, and I mean, I understand. Yes, it's got to be frustrated that is the case, but you can't simply just stop playing like what they did. And yeah, Dane Sinclair bailed this team out, and I even wrote Minnesota got away with that one big time. That should have been 1-0 in favor of RSL. Morongo then puts one into the stands in the 53rd minute, and again, the game finally started to open up. But the question is, who can get that opener? Well, Chicho tried to do so, but he hits it right to Dane Sinclair in the 60th minute. Marechik then puts it wide after Diaz himself also casually passed this one back to Dane Sinclair and almost pay the price. Again, these self-inflicted mistake by Minnesota. I was getting very frustrated because again, it's one thing to see this team give up a goal because of wonderful play by Real Salt Lake, but if they're going to cough up goals like this, especially in a game where I think this is going to be a very tight matchup in these next couple of games, that was really driving me absolutely nuts, and I'm pretty sure it was driving Eric Ramsey absolutely nuts too, because again, the Loons, I even wrote, they're playing with tons of fire at the back. You just kind of sense if they do that again next time, they're going to pay the price, and RSL was going to take advantage of it. Though that being said, on the other end, in the 71st minute, McMath absolutely robbed Tani Olawa Shayi there in the front post, and on the follow up, Sambin pretty much put this one into the wash mountains. Chicho then heads it wide from close range. I thought this game was kind of on a knife edge, and again, it just feels like with the way that it started to open up right now, who's gonna get that crucial opening goal, or else we're gonna go to PK shootout. But in the 83rd minute, McMath just another incredible double save. Here he first robbed Yaboa in the front post, and then Longwane had a chance to hit this one. And while it was a great reaction from McMath, Yeah, that's one that Bongi Longwane is got to bury. And honestly, this is when I started to kind of also have flashback of, oh, it's one of those games for Minnesota, isn't it? Where finishing is just not there. I mean, I haven't had those flashback at least in recent form because this Minnesota team has been very lethal on the attack. But man, I definitely had those flashback with these chances that is missed from this Loons team. But I also got to give credit to the goalkeeper for both of these teams. Again, up to this point, I think this was kind of an underrated factor. Not a lot of people talk about how both of these goalkeepers, despite the fact that they didn't really have anything to do in the first half because it was a very boring game, they really come up big, at least in the second half. Well, I say both goalkeepers didn't have anything to do in the first half. Dane Sinclair did make a big save in the 13 minute to at least deny Luna there. But yeah, both of those goalkeeper they were having a goalkeeping duel, which again, if you would have told me that was the case at the coming into the second half, I wouldn't believe you. And again, both of those goalkeepers keeping this game at 0-0 as long as possible. An example of that was right after I wrote that. Dane Sinclair made a great kick save there to deny Gonzalez in the front post, and Enola Ashari had a shot that was deflected and goes. Why? We also only get 3 minutes of stoppage time, which again that kind of feels a little too a little less considering lately in terms of stoppage time in the second half. There's just been just crazy amount of stoppage time that has happened. But it kind of feel like even the referee wants, you know what? Let's just settle this in a PK shootout. I mean, if this was maybe at the first half, wouldn't mind. But man, it was getting too excited. I feel like 3 minutes is not enough. Now, as a Minnesota United fan, I was not. I'm okay with the fact that we go to a PK shootout. Consider Minnesota has actually done pretty well in a PK shootout, at least in their recent history. But at the same time, you're a neutral, and part of me also I want more of this craziness, and hope that Minnesota can at least win it in regulation and doesn't have to worry about going to a PK shootout. So that being said, in the third minute stoppage time, Chicho with then hits it right to Dane Sinclair in the third man stoppage time, and that was the last chance in this game. And indeed, we are going to go to a PK shootout. So yeah, both time in terms of these late games, both of them went to a PK shootout. This one went a little longer than the one between Seattle and Houston. It actually went to round number 6. In fact, both teams actually missed their PKs in round number 3. Michael Boxall, the last player I think from for the Loons, I would have thought that would miss a PK, but to be fair, McMath did make a great save, and then after that, Justin Glad just yeah he pretty much put that one not only into the stands and what's kind of interesting is that Dane Sinclair didn't even had to make a save because the pivotal moment that wins the PK shot for the Loons is Ojeda missing this one. He actually hits the post, and before this, they even mentioned there was a discussion in the RSL huddle the fact that they don't know who was going to take it in round number 6 because I'm pretty sure Pablo Mastroeni and this team staff didn't think that this was going to go into round number 6, which kind of feel like that's kind of a weird thinking considering we have seen PK Show go as deep as round number 10 as well. But yeah, here they kind of had some confusion there. Ojeda basically steps up. I'm pretty sure he wasn't thinking that he was going to take the crucial PK to extend it to round number 7. And anytime when that of course happened, yeah, that's not a great feeling. And yeah, it's no surprise Ojeda blast that one onto the post. And yeah, Minnesota, they get the advantage heading into game number 2, and that means the game I'm going to be going on Saturday at Allianz Field, which I already checked the weather. It's going to be just as cold as this game as well. There's even I heard there's a chance of rain as well. Though again, even though the weather is 40 degrees in Minnesota, the fans or from people in Minnesota, that's just kind of a normal November evening. But yeah, obviously they have a chance to clinch at Allianz on Saturday after winning 5-4 in the PK shootout. The shots in this one, 12 shots for the 9 that RSL had, 6 shots on goal for the 7 that Minnesota has, 3 shots off target compared to 2 that RSL had, 1 shot off block for the 2 that Minnesota has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And just like the Seattle versus Houston game, I do feel like this there's really not much separate between both of these teams. I mean, this game for the most part was a very evenly play out of game, and even though I've said before that I feel like Minnesota has a good advantage against RSL compared to if they do face against the other their first round opponent like Seattle or even the two LA team. I mean, I do think that, these two teams, when you look at these last couple of meetings, it's been very tight. It's been kind of like a draw. There's a reason why there's been so many draws in these meetings. I think this is the 10th draw that is happening between both of these teams. And I do expect it's going to be the same thing when we see at Allianz Field. I mean, I would not be surprised if RSL can win at Allianz, and this is not just because Minnesota hasn't been very good this season at home, but it's just I do think this is anybody's game. Though for me, I'm hoping Minnesota can wrap that up. I'm hoping I can sing one the wall after the end of the night and see this team heading into the second round. But again, I do think this is a matchup where it's still anybody game. I think there's nothing really separated between both of these teams, and do not be surprised we might be seeing both of these teams play once again next week at the Riot for a pivotal game number 3. There you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of both of these games, and that's pretty much a wrap in terms of game number 1. And as we head into game number 2, we're gonna see all these teams that win game number 1 a chance to move on into the next round. Now, keep in mind, last year in the best of 3 series, all the teams that were able to win game 1 actually move on into the next round. So that's a key stats to focus because uh there's a reason why even though in a best of 3 series I know people will say, well, game 1 doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It kind of in some ways does when you look at how you get the upper advantage and you maybe give a little bit pressure off heading into game number 2, and you put all the pressure on your opposition that they have to win that one or else their season is done. But there's no doubt that I would not be surprised heading into game number 2 in all these games. We're gonna see a couple of them go into a pivotal game 3 as well, because there have been some of these games where there's really not much separate between both of these team, and there could be a chance that they could actually go to a pivotal game 3. But we'll see how many, of course, will happen. As we're gonna have game 2 action starting on Friday, and I think that's gonna go all the way to Monday, if I'm not mistaken, or Sunday as well. I gotta check the schedule in terms of when are these game 2 that is going to happen. And no, I'm not gonna do a preview in terms of game number 2, because the preview I did in the first round matchup pretty much sets up the best of 3 series. And yes, I am gonna do review for some of these playoff game even during my travel as well. One of the difficult thing when it comes to traveling on the road is watching these games. But I'm definitely gonna have time to at least this time making sure I'll be at the hotel watching these game and basically doing the review of these games from the hotel as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.